Got that? Can you hear me, Adam? Okay, yeah. So I know when I started coming on Saturdays, to explore Zen, when the Sutra time came around, I was like, oh, this is the religious part. I kind of zoned out because I wasn't really into the religious part. Having grown up Catholic and was trying to get away from ritual, and I had sort of bought into the how Zen came here, which was, beat mix and poetry and freedom and kensho and all that. But fortunately, I had a good teacher in Donna who asked me quite early, "Would you please lead the chants at the session?" And so that was terrifying because I didn't even know what was happening. I just thought this person was improvising. I didn't know what they were doing. So, but that experience really helped me pay attention to what the chanting was and really listening. And that listening, especially those of us who have done session, know how the chanting evolves through that group sitting together and the sound of just the voices together. So as I began to think about talking about this, I thought maybe I should sort of start at the beginning. Some of us are pretty new to this practice. Others of us have been here, like I said, forever. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Diamond Sangha. What is the Diamond Sangha? And the Diamond Sangha, begun by Robert Aiken, who for most of us is just almost mythical creature and an author, but for like Donna and Adam, both who sat with Aiken, he is the one who started this tradition from this Japanese tradition called Sanbo Kyodan. And the Sanbo Kyodan was begun by Yatsutani Roshi in Japan and his teacher, Parada Dain Sogaku, to expand Zen practice to the lay community. It was kind of stuck in monasteries, just with monks and nuns. And so they really wanted to invite in not just lay people, yes, but also people from other cultures and other religions. And a Yamada Koan, Zenshin, was Yatsutani's student, and he really expanded it as well, especially to Catholics. He was interested in having Catholics involved. And as we know, Donna and Adam sat with Pat Hawk, who was a Redemptorist priest, and many of us sat with Amasami, who's a Jesuit priest from India. So that tradition, and in our ancestral line there, those last three before Aiken are these three guys. So we say Daimon Sogaku, that's Harada, Hakuin Ryoko, Yatsutani, and Koen Zenshin, was Yamada and Robert Aiken. And sometimes it's called the Three Clouds practice because those three all have the name Cloud is in their name. I can't remember which kind of cloud is in each of their names. But Sanbo Kyodan actually just means Three Treasures Religious Organization. Very simple. But then Yamada was Aiken's teacher. All of these guys probably were Aiken's teacher, but it's from Yamada that Aiken got Dharma transmission. And so then he started the Diamond Sangha to be a lay tradition in the West. And so we're related to Sanbo Kyodan, as is White Plum lineage and others. We're kind of all cousins because these teachers from Japan visited a lot of places, and teachers came from them in Japan. So where Ando is from the Los Angeles Zen Center is kind of like a cousin of ours, sort of also related. And this Sanbo Kyodan tradition not only was appealing to lay people, but it combined the two main traditions, Soto and Rinzai, together. So that's why our tradition is a combination of those. So And Aiken, as we know, was a very interesting person, and he and his wife, actually, Anne, I should say, started the Dharma Sangha. But he was an activist and a socialist, and an early advocate of civil rights, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, Native Hawaiian rights. So he really did model this layperson engaged in the world kind of Zen practice, which is a little bit new in Zen history. So there's lots more history, and we can talk about that later. But that's how from Japan to Hawaii to California to Yellow Springs, Ohio, this practice evolved. And then the sutra book that we used, and I talked to Donna about this, she was my authority on this, Aiken modeled it on what he did in Japan. And still, though, many changes were made and different translations. So, for instance, everyone in the Diamond Sangha around the world does not have the exact same sutra book. It's kind of the same model, but some of the chants are translated differently. Some they leave out. We've added some in our practice. We've added names of women ancestors in our practice. So they're evolving as each group evolves. So thank you, Donna. Donna brought it all here. So I think about it, Donna, in order. So why do we chant sutras? I've been looking at this very interesting book by Zenju Earthland Manuel called The Shamanic Bones of Zen. And Zenju is a Zen priest from the San Francisco Zen Center lineage, but she also spent many years as a Nichiren Pure Land practitioner. And she's really talking about the indigenous roots of our rituals. It's very interesting. But she says something here that I'll just read. Zen rituals and ceremonies can appear odd, fussy, busy, and unnecessary, if not ridiculous, to some. As a result of the shamanic aspect of Zen going unrecognized in contemporary times, it's difficult to understand what is going on. Think back to any ceremony or ritual in your life, strip it of its roots, and what you see are folks doing strange things, singing strange songs, and appearing under the influence of a script or something external to them. This distorted view can arise because Zen rituals and ceremonies aren't meant to be observed, but to be engaged. They are meant to engage one's whole body and mind as expressions of Zazen. In essence, you cannot, quote, feel the spirit unless you have given yourself over to the expansiveness being created. If not, then the rituals and ceremonies are far too abstract. If the rituals and ceremonies are done without soul and spirit, or just wholehearted presence, they become another routine, one more thing to do in the way of the world. If you are not available for what may come through engaging the mind and body, then the time spent is merely time spent. Yasutani said about the chanting is it's when we actually communicate with the ancestors. We communicate literally with our voices with the ancestors. And Kaz Tanahashi, a Zen teacher and translator, many of you know, says Zen chants are constant reminders that we practice together. We are one mind, one heart, one life. So I resonate with all those views. And also I kind of see our chanting, our sutra service as a way to seal our connection to each other in the Sangha, past and future. Joining our voices together, our breath together, to chant these profound truths of this practice, ungraspable as they are, supports each of us in a very physical and sensing kind of way. The vibration of chanting itself is invigorating for our Zazen practice. And we repeat, over and over every week, these profound teachings that we just can't seem to get into our heads. And we can't get them into our heads because that's not how they enter. They enter through our hearts, to our own life. So we chant together just as a reminder, for, in our case, for the next week, just a reminder of these truths I don't understand. But, maybe in my life, the understanding will come. So I want to share a story of one of the women at Marysville. I always like to bring, those women in here since they cannot be in here, and to not forget them. But this is a young woman who joined our Sangha there about a year ago, and she was 8 months pregnant. Her name is Laura. And she will be taking Jukai in October before our session with Danielle. And when she came the first time to sit, she was just really kind of blown away, because it was the first time she felt calm, and she felt the baby calm. And she was hoping to be released to have the baby, but she wasn't released. She had the baby. The baby's with her family. But she continued to practice, and just very, very excited about the teachings. She just realized the pragmatic nature of the teachings and the benefit in her life of the practice and the teachings. So she, very much wanted to take the precepts. And we were having a conversation one day, and we're talking about her practice and what's going on. And she said, I hear all the time around here, of course she grew up Catholic, leave it in God's hands. God will show you the way. God's got you. And she said, is there something equivalent in Zen to like how you lay it down, And so we talked about that, and about how in our practice and in the Buddha teachings, it's up to each of us. We take responsibility for our life. Nobody's going to save us. We talked a little bit about laying it in the lap of the Buddha or the lap of Kuan Yin. But later I really was thinking about that, because it was really coming from a place of exhausted from her suffering. How do I ever lay it down? Is there any way to, just let it rest for a minute before I have to pick it up again? It was such a good question she asked. So later I thought about our chanting and our bowing and how we do this together, and that is the place that we lay it down, in the arms of the Sangha, to hold it for us. So when we chant, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is exactly emptiness, emptiness exactly form. In that chant of just those lines, where's our problem? Form is exactly emptiness, emptiness exactly form. Right there, where's our problem? So in these words, the liberation is there, but we can check out and not connect, or we can connect. And of course, the Heart Sutra goes on to pull out every other handle we want to grasp as well. So all of that to say, I'd like to, I just want to brush the dust off our sutra service, and, give us a little energy for it. And it's one reason that I like to encourage the sutra leader to lead with a little energy, because it's not a drone, and it's not an amen. It's, it's a rising of our jariki energy, our energy of zazen, and sharing it with each other. So we just had a little bit of time today, because we learned how to do tea together. So thank you. I just want to go through maybe just the first page, and we can get out our books and look at the first page. So we begin with our right eye vows, our profound vows. We make 3 profound vows, if we can, if we're physically able. But 5 points on the floor: our knees, our elbows, and our forehead. And then we lift our hands up as if holding the feet of the Buddha. So we fall on our hindrances and hold out the Buddha way. It's really quite beautiful. And in most places, it's pretty silent, because there's tatami mats, or people do it on cushions, which we should do. But here it's like ash on the floor, and our floor responds. And we have this wonderful floor that's very responsive to us. And so we hear it, we hear that great bow. It's wonderful. So that just, brings us up off the cushion and reminding us, what we're doing in our practice. And then we go to the first chant, what's called purification, and in some other traditions, it's called the verse of atonement. All the ancient twisted karma from beginningless greed, hatred, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, I now confess openly and fully. It's the way we say it. Sometimes this last line is, I now fully atone, which I like a little better than confess, again, Catholic. But I don't see this as confessing our sins or our wrongdoings, more as an affirmative statement of our vow, which is never ending. No matter what actions I've taken, I'm constantly practicing vow. This reminds us we're constantly practicing vow. The precepts, body, mouth, and thought are constant teachers. We never reach the end of this twisting karma. This is our human life, twisting karma. And we just simply acknowledge this and accept this. This is our responsibility. Again, with the Sangha as witness. We begin this chant to clear the field, Zenju Earthland says. With atonement, we open our hearts, which enables the ceremonies and rituals to take place with full attention and presence. So it's just clearing the decks and starting over. Right there, we get to start over. What a great opportunity. And the next part, Namo Tassa, Bhagavato, Arahato, Samma Sambuddhassa. This is the only thing that we chant in Pali language. And as most of you know, Pali language is the original language of the sutras of the Buddha, and it's still the language that is chanted in the Theravada tradition in Southeast Asia and here as well. So this is wonderful that everywhere this is chanted, everywhere around the world, every Buddhist center chants this Pali phrase. It is an acknowledgement of where it all comes from and the life of the Buddha himself. My in-house expert on Pali Canon is Sister Dhammavichya, who many of us know, one of our Theravada nun friends from Kathmandu in Nepal. And I just was talking to her last week about this very phrase. And she said it means you are one mind with Buddha mind. You are one mind with Buddha mind. And she said this chant gives clarity, strength, and confidence. And that reminded me a little bit of this shamanic roots, that the chants themselves have a power beyond the meaning of the words to just give us energy to go away. And she also told me that, and she's told me this before, this is, Theravadan traditional view, but that the Pali language, P-A-L-I, the Pali language is the only language that can be understood by all the beings in the six realms. Mm-hmm. So humans, devas, deities, demons, animals, and hungry ghosts all can understand you are one mind with Buddha mind. So when we chant that, it's also whatever hawks or crows or squirrels or anything is there. Everyone is hearing, and the hungry ghosts in here, and the devas in here, and in the trees. So it's beautiful to feel like it opens up like that and includes everything, every being. So that's a beautiful acknowledgement of our roots, our ancient roots before the Mahayana. And finally, the Tirtharana, our refuge vows. This is a time we say to each other, we take refuge right here with this gathering of Zen siblings, and together acknowledge the three treasures of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Robert Aiken writes, to realize the very heart of essential nature is to take refuge in the Buddha. To realize the very heart of essential nature is to take refuge in the Buddha. To cultivate the garden of realization is to take refuge in the Dharma. To cultivate the garden of realization is to take refuge in the Dharma. And to share the fruits of the garden is to take refuge in the Sangha. To share the fruits of the garden is to take refuge in the Sangha. Yatsutani says that the Tisarana is the foundation and the whole of the Buddha vow, taking the refuge vows. So that's our first page. And I think I'll just end, and we've gone over too much here, with Earthlyn again. This is at the end of her book. We don't know who or what we are, why we are here, or where we are going. Zen rituals and ceremonies can act as a mirror in the dark unknown of the present and in the light of the ancient past. Is there a willingness to look in the mirror and see a reflection of ourselves without any notions of Zen or Zen practice? Can we go through the flesh of the tradition as presented and consider the bones? The teachings received in talks and books are a reflection of the truth, but not the truth itself. To engage the body and mind in ritual and ceremony will reveal the soul and spirit of your own life. So thank you for a tea talk and 2 hours on it. Thank you for being here. So we can just finish our tea if you haven't, and go right into our beautiful sutra sort of.